A few days ago, I made a video going over most of the things that were in the updated Mario Party Jamboree website over in Japan. But today I wanted to focus on the minigames, and we're going to hone in on them, focus on them, and kind of give an idea of what they could be and how excited I am for them. The way that this video is going to work is I'm going to be going through all the different categories, 4-player, 1v1, 2v2, and so on and so forth. And we're going to be talking about the minigames in the order of which I'm least excited for to the ones that I'm most excited for each category. But yeah, in the bottom left corner, there'll be a number showing how excited I am for it. So, without any further ado, let's get into the 4-player minigames. The 4-player minigame that I'm least excited for would be the minigame where it looks like these thwomps are blocking 3 different types of images. Now, my guess for this minigame is that it's just going to be 3 thwomps showing you 3 different images. They're going to block them off, and then afterwards, everybody's going to have to race to pick the one that they want you to pick. And then, best of 3 rounds, whoever gets the most points wins. The next minigame is 3-throw. Now, they could do 3-throw right. They could totally make it to where if you can't hit the top basket, you can hit the bottom basket, and vice versa. But in the old version of Mario Party 4, you really couldn't hit the bottom ones all too easily. So it just made it to where everybody on the sides were focusing on the middle row when the conveyor belt was moving in their direction. And then when it would swap to the other direction, the person on the other side of the ends would go for the middle. And then the other person would go for the top. And then the 2 people in the middle usually get barely anything, if not just scraps, especially if the 2 people on the sides are good at the minigame. So hopefully it's fixed to the point where you can at the very least hit the bottom row easier than you could in Mario Party 4, because then that makes it a lot better. The next minigame looks like a coin collecting game that you'll be doing on 2 different platforms in a tree. Now, my guess is these 2 platforms are going to be kind of like balancing out between each other. If you have like 2 people on the right one all the way on the right, then the left side of that will be all the way up. So you kind of got to balance, jump up to get the coins and all that fun jazz. Not too difficult of a coin minigame. The next minigame looks like you're running on platforms to make it to the end, but you got to stay in between the 2 logs. My one concern about this is it doesn't necessarily look too difficult. Like maybe the logs will come a lot closer together to make it difficult, or there will be a bunch of gaps, or the roads will get really thin. I don't know, but as it looks right now, it doesn't seem like it's going to be too difficult to stay on the platform. So hopefully there's some type of obstacle to make it just a little difficult. The next minigame is some ice skate coin collecting minigame, it looks like. Probably just going to have to use your ice skates in this giant ring of ice, and then just collect as many coins as you can. Next, we have Treasure Divers from Mario Party 1. Now, again, this is just another coin collecting minigame, but I think the interesting thing will be how will the coins be dispersed in the treasure chests when you go to get them? Will they be the exact same as Mario Party 1? Will they have a few more coins, or will they have a few less coins? The next minigame is 3 toads rolling on balls. My guess for this is that you have to memorize which toad rolled each ball with which specific characters, and then the game will either ask you, what did the purple toad have on the ball? Or which toad had a spike on their ball? You know, something along those lines. It could be either or both. And it's just like a memory thing where maybe it'll get a little bit more difficult over 3, maybe 5 rounds. Our next minigame is what I believe to be our first motion minigame. Now, on the Japanese website, it did say that there are going to be 7 of these throughout the entire main mode of Mario Party. So, we're going to go over which 7 I truly think they are, but there will be some mentions later on where I think those could be motion, but I think that the 7 that we mentioned in this particular mode are going to be the 7 motion. But again, we will talk about that when we get to some of the other categories of minigames. But yeah, this minigame, it just looks like you're going to have to be tilting your Joy-Con left and right to make whatever it is that is there. Maybe balls, maybe, I don't know, I can't tell. And then you're going to have to make them go into the correct bin. Whoever gets the most points wins. The next minigame is one of the very first minigames that they did show off for this game. My concern about this minigame is it looks like the platform that you're running on doesn't move as fast as one would think it does, and then the obstacles that are in your way don't really look like they're too hazardous. So it almost feels like one of those minigames where unless there is some crazy things that happen after 30 seconds, or if maybe you have to get directly impacted, it just feels like everybody is more or less gonna win. So hopefully that isn't the case, but we shall see. The next minigame shows Bowser picking keys. My assumption with this is you gotta pick and get the keys to the correct doors in order to progress. Maybe there's a few different rooms, but of course it only shows one character. So unless this is just the picture of it before it spreads out to 4 different people, that would be my guess, but I'm assuming it's just get the keys, bring them to the correct doors, and maybe go through like 3 different rooms with a bunch of different keys, get to the end fastest. The next minigame, we are being dragged on sleds. I have 2 ideas of what this could be. Either it is you pick a sled at random and then 3 people will fall back and then whoever is still left at the end wins, and it's a random minigame. Or it's a timing minigame where, like that one 8-player minigame in Mario Party 7, you have to get as close to the edge as you possibly can. The next minigame is Granite Getaway. I know a lot of people love Granite Getaway. My thing is it just usually feels too easy. I want bigger rocks. I want bigger gaps. I want more gaps. I want more obstacles. Don't make it to where there's a couple tiny rocks here and there, and then everybody gets to the end all happy. No, this is Mario Party. I want people to fall and scream. Next, we have another motion minigame, which again was one of the first ones that they showed, where you're kind of rolling your golf ball into the hole and you got to use your Joy-Con to rotate it all around to get it into the hole. I'm pretty sure this is probably going to be like a 3-round thing. First to get it gets 5 points, 3 points, 1 point, no points. Next, we have a minigame where you have to avoid the typhoons. This minigame looks pretty good. You got to avoid the gust of winds. My hope is that about halfway through the minigame, it shows where like 2 different typhoons from both of the sides start blowing, and you got to make sure you're in like the very perfect position to not get blown off. Maybe you can kind of like push your opponents and your friends into the wind to make it a little bit more fun and interesting. But yeah, that one does have the potential to be really good, but from what I saw, it doesn't look too perfect just yet. Up next, we have another motion minigame, which looks to be Crank to Rank from Mario Party 8. Now this one got a whole new different design, where instead of just like cranking up a flagpole, you're cranking up the lights to go all the way up to the castle. And it just looks really good from even the small picture that we see. I can't wait to see it on my actual monitor. The next minigame, which I do believe is going to be a motion-based minigame, is it looks like you're gonna have to mine through a giant wall to be able to get outside of the mines. Now, of course, the question will become, do you have to do it in a rhythm? Do you have to do it as fast as you can? Do you have to also put maybe some inputs in as you're shaking your controller? Who knows, but it'll probably still be pretty fun anyway. Next, we have another motion minigame where you're just hammering nails probably to a rhythm. And then if you do it with the good timing, the good rhythm, you'll do it in 1 hit. Otherwise, it could take 2, maybe 3 if your rhythm isn't as good. Next, we have a minigame where you're jumping on ant troopers, and this was on the Japanese website. It looks like you just keep bouncing up and down, so you got to control yourself in the air, and then you just got to avoid the horned ant troopers, so once you touch one of them, you're out, and then last one surviving wins. Next up, we got Stamp Out. It's Stamp Out from Mario Party 4. You hop around, get as much of your color on the paper as you can, and then probably go towards whoever's in first place and keep covering them up just so you can annoy the ever-living hell out of them. Next up, we have a minigame where you have to avoid magmargs, or however you say it. I don't know how to say it, so we're just gonna stick with that. And you have to avoid them as they are continuously coming in onto your platform. But there is also a fire bar which looks to be spinning around the entire time. This looks like it could be very fun. Next, we have one that seems to be rather simple, but it seems like one that I will probably personally enjoy, and it's one where you gotta just take the same type of picture that is in the center of your screen. Again, probably a 3-round thing. First person gets 5 points, 3 points, 1 point, 0 points. Next up, we have another, I believe, motion control minigame, which looks to be something similar to the one cloud minigame that I believe was in Super Mario Party, where you gotta make it all the way up to the end, but instead of this time where you would get the extra clouds to be able to progress, here you gotta avoid the amps and make it up to the top. Maybe you can only be electrocuted a couple times, or maybe, just maybe, once you get electrocuted once, you're out. Please NDQ, make it the second one. Don't make it multiple lives, I beg. Next minigame, you ground pound onto your platform and it sends out a shockwave to everybody else. But of course, everybody else is doing the same thing, so it just looks like it's going to be absolutely chaotic. We have another motion control minigame, which I believe is the final motion control minigame, and that looks like a triathlon, where you're gonna be swimming, biking, and then maybe running at the end. My guess is that the swimming will be like in a rhythm, the bike will be like that rotating like how you did Trike Harder, and then maybe running is just shaking as fast as you possibly can. Or maybe one of them could be something along the lines of like button mashing or putting in specific combinations. Who knows? We'll see. Up next, we have a minigame where you're just running around a globe and grabbing as many flags as you can. This one looks pretty good too. You gotta make sure you grab the flag, because once somebody grabs the flag, that flag cannot be grabbed anymore. Next, we have one of the mini games where we actually know the name of it, and that is Sandwiched. From the times that I watch people play this at PAX, it looked like it could be very fun. I just hope that the layout and the pattern of when and how the sandwiches actually fall isn't always something that you can predict. I don't want there to be a strategy in this minigame to where if you stay like always on the top, then you're going to be better, or if you're in the corner or something along those lines. The next minigame is Hot Cross Blocks. This is the type of minigame where you really gotta think about whether you want to advance yourself or hurt your opponents. Or maybe even both. Because in this minigame, if 2 people choose the same block, then nobody gets that block. So it really comes down to a lot of strategy with this game. Now, the one thing that I could say is maybe they could have shortened the pathway just a tiny bit, but at the same time, once everybody knows the game, we'll probably have it to where most people will be able to select which platform they want within 3 to 5 seconds. So it won't take the full 10 seconds every single time. Unlike something else that takes 10 seconds that we'll talk about later. Next, we have Platform Peril. Yes, I am so glad this is back. And it looks like it potentially has some coins along the way. Thank you. And the game that I'm most excited for the 4-player minigames is Domination. I love Domination. I get it, not everybody loves button mashers. This is the best button masher. This I'm very excited for. I'm so happy that it's back. Alright, now we're going to be moving on to the 1v3 minigames. And the first minigame we're going to be talking about is some sort of cage minigame where you have to either A, trap the Cheep Cheeps, B, trap the player, or C, both. I don't know if it's going to be a multiple attempt thing or you get one attempt. I'm going to assume it's multiple attempts. But when it comes to the 3, one person will control the vertical movement, one person will control the horizontal movement, and it looks like the third person, who is in the corner, will decide when to drop the cage. The next minigame is some sort of UFO minigame where the one is in a UFO and he probably has to like pick up the different platforms where some will have spikes on one side, some will have spikes on the other, and probably has to like drop those sides with the spikes or pick up the sides with the spikes, rotate them or something, drop them on the players. Could be interesting. The next minigame, we're getting the start of the nostalgia. We got a coin minigame where one person gets to ride Plessy. It looks like in this game we're getting minigames from other types of games like 3D World, Mario Kart, and probably a few others. My guess is that the person on Plessy is able to move around potentially faster, or maybe they have the ability to jump higher or something along those lines. I don't know what's going to be, but then the 3 people are on like 3 tiny little rafts, so they probably won't be able to move as fast to collect the coins, because this looks like it's a coin collecting game. The next minigame is Blame It on the Crane. This minigame was an interesting one from Mario Party 4, and the question that I have when it comes to this is, will the crane work the exact same as it did in Mario Party 4, where you hold down the A button and that'll move it back and forth, or maybe will they make it to where you can actually control where the crane drops by using your sticks? I don't know what I'd prefer, honestly. If they did make it with the sticks, I'd have to play it with the sticks and then go back to playing how it was in Mario Party 4 to really determine which I prefer. Next, we potentially have Hop, Drop, and Roll from Mario Party 10, but like a little different? I don't know. Because in that minigame, you did kind of drop grolls on them, but also had bullet bills. But in this minigame, it does look like you're hitting the on and off blocks, and then it's just the grolls. So you do have like good control of like when to drop them, so it does look like it'll be pretty interesting, and my guess is it'll probably be that the 3 people have to survive either 30 to 45 seconds. Next minigame, I think, is Bash and Cash, but the other way around. This will go one of a couple ways, and I think one is a lot more likely. Either A, each person that has the money bags over them will start with, say, 20 to 30 coins in them, and then the one person has to go around hitting everybody with the hammer to either get coins or maybe a bag. And then for the 3, it's just however much you have at the end of the minigame left in your bag is what you win, and then whatever the one person knocks out will be what they win. Or they did the Mad Lab thing and made it to where the 3 people's bags are actually the money that they have on the board, and it's just literally the other way around for Bash and Cash, which would be insane, but I just don't see it happening. If they do, I will be amazed. The next minigame we have is Sunset Standoff. The best comparison, and the comparison that I've always made to this, is think of it as a more linear bowl over. However, when it comes to this minigame, the one person gets 5 rounds instead of 2, maybe 3. And I think it's probably needed to have 5 because it looks like the one person gets locked into their movement either right before the gap that's between the 2 platforms or during the gap. Whereas I think the 3 people can still technically move around a little bit after the bill is set in stone. But again, I haven't played it, so maybe people who actually got to play it at PAX could correct me on that one. Up next, we got like a bruiser minigame where you gotta be on top of the big bruiser and then you gotta hit everybody else and knock them off the platform. This reminds me of that Super Minigame where you're on top of the chain chomp. Hopefully, it's not as loosely controlled as the chain chomp, but hopefully it also isn't too slow to where you can't reach anybody. This will probably be a 45-second minigame, maybe 30, maybe 60, but probably 45. The next minigame, it looks like Archer Rival, kind of, but here everybody has targets above them. And then when it comes to the targets, each one have points. So like the middle is 30, the outer ring is 20, and then the further ring is 10. So my guess is that the one person has to shoot the arrow at the targets, and then they have to either A, get a specific amount of points while shooting the targets once, like the total highest would be 90, maybe they have to get like 50 or 60, or they keep the targets, but the one person has to get a mass of 100 to maybe 150 points in the matter of like 30 seconds. Next, we have Snowball. Love me some Snowball. Probably going to be very fun, very hectic. I know they're not going to have it, but I would also love like a night version. That'd be cool, but it's probably just going to be the day version. Next, we got a minigame where it looks like it's hide and seek, but a little bit more different and intriguing. Usually when it comes to hide and seek minigames, it's the 3 people that get to hide and the 1 person who chooses, but here it's flipped. The 1 person gets to hide. The 3 people then have to choose which of the 4 places to hammer down on, and then I'm going to guess that it takes probably 3 rounds, and if the 3 people can hit the person 3 times in those 3 rounds, they win. And the minigame that I am most excited for when it comes to the 1v3s is cookie cutters. The 1 person gets to use all of the cutters, while the 3s get to use 1 each. You gotta press the cutters along with the cookies in order from top left to bottom right. This minigame, I think once everybody knows how to play, and once everybody kind of knows like the timing and the rhythm to it, could be a very intense and very close minigame. So this one looks like it could be very good. I hope I'm right. Next up, we're gonna be talking about the 2v2 minigames, and we're gonna be starting with some minigame that could go 3 different ways, I'm gonna be honest with you. The first minigame is a fishing minigame, and we do get to see a little bit of it in the trailer that came out for Yoshi just recently. So here's my thing. Either A, it is a 2v2 fishing minigame where 4 people are fishing, you gotta get the money, or maybe it's something similar to where 1 person is underneath and you gotta, you know, get the chests like you did in Mario Party 1 and bring them back up, or it's a duel minigame. In the picture, it might only show 2 people, but there is the possibility that it does show 4. So I'm not 100% yet. But then the other thing about this minigame, if some of those minigames in the 4-player aren't motion, I could see this being one of the motion control minigames. There's just a lot about this minigame that I really don't know. But my guess, if it is a 2v2 coin minigame, then you're just, you know, doing the thing when you throw your rod down. You have either both of you trying to fish for chests, coins, or whatnot, or you have the 1 person down below getting the things and bringing it back up. Or if it is a duel minigame, then I'm gonna guess that you have to fish for specific things, or you have to fish for points, or I don't know. But personally, it'd be cool if it was a duel minigame, because when we get duels, there's not a lot. The next minigame looks like you gotta take your lassos, get the chest, and then pull the rope back in. It could be a minigame where you have to really work with your teammate, and if you both don't actually hit the chest with it, then you don't get it. Something along those lines. But yeah, it looks like a coin minigame. And again, could be a motion minigame. I don't know. But I'm gonna throw out that option. Next, we have a minigame where it looks like you just gotta kind of match the 2 cards that Womp asks you to look for. Maybe it'll just be a continuous thing and you gotta get all the cards, or it's something along the lines of where you just have to match the 2 specific cards that he asks you to do, and then it's multiple rounds. Up next, we have Tricky Turntable. There's a lot here. The concept for this minigame is really good. It's a coin minigame, and you have to like outsmart your opponent to be able to get the coins on your side. From the times that I've watched people play it, not a lot of coins were being gotten for the amount of time that the minigame takes. When it comes to a coin minigame, I feel like that's different when you compare it to just your normal minigame, especially when it comes to the time per coin. So my solution for this would either be put a few more coins on each of the platforms, if you're gonna make it 10 seconds to deliberate, or keep the coins, make it 5 seconds. Or maybe 7 at most. One of those 2 things, and this minigame would probably be a hell of a lot better for everyone. But even with the 10-second thing, it could still potentially be a lot of fun trying to like psych out everybody. Up next, we got Defuse or Lose from Mario Party 5. This minigame really just comes down to whether or not your partner knows their surroundings and knows how to actually hit the fuse without missing it. If your partner and you can do that, great, you're gonna do great. Otherwise, if you don't know your 3D spacing, yeah, your team's probably gonna lose. The next minigame looks like it could be something similar to Right or Left from Mario Party 4, because in Right or Left, you would use your A and B buttons to either go right or left. And then you had to make it to the end of the course. It looks like similar designs to the things that you're sitting in, but we're not in a cave. So, looks promising. Hopefully it'll be good. The next one looks like Control Stick, but 2v2. So, of course, my thinking is that the two people will control the car together. But maybe they make it to where one person has control of the left side and the other person has control of the right side. And you really gotta work together to make sure that you're either going forward, left, or right, and not spinning in a circle. Up next, we have Prime Cut. In this minigame, you're gonna be cutting 3 different steaks with differing proportions, and you wanna get as close as you can to 50-50. It's gonna be whoever does the best out of the 3 steaks that you cut. The next minigame looks like a fruit organizing minigame, where you have 3 different fruits, 3 different conveyor belts, and then you got to take the fruits from the wrong conveyor belts and put them on the correct conveyor belts to make them go to the place they need to go. If, let's say, the second half of it makes it to where the conveyor belts, I don't know, double speed, now that would make for a chaotic and pretty fun minigame. Next, from Mario Party 6, we have Jump the Gun. Another really solid choice from the GameCube era minigames. I'm very excited for this to come back. Hopefully, we can still make as long of jumps that we could back in Mario Party 6. The next minigame looks like you have to match the shape that is in the center of your screen. Now, the way to do this is everybody has wheels with 8 different shapes, and you gotta match the 2 shapes to make that one shape. This looks like it'd be very fun. I just hope that there's enough shapes to where it doesn't immediately start to feel like, I know that shape, let's just go to this. The next minigame has me really excited because it looks like 2 versus 2 Vine with me. If you know me, you know I love Vine with me. However, with this minigame, you're swinging across and you have to hold on to the ledge. While you're holding on to the ledge, your teammate has to let go of their ledge and then swing to the next one and hold on to that one. It's all differing heights. Some are still close, but it is differing heights. So I'm hoping that this one will live up to the hype that I am personally feeling for it. And of course, if you're paying attention through the 4-player one, you know the Manic Mallets arm wrestling minigame is gonna be the one that I'm most looking forward to. I love my button mashers. This is just Manic Mallets, but instead of a hammer, you're doing arm wrestling. Can't wait. Give it to me. Now we're going to be moving on to the Duel Minigames, starting off with a minigame that looks like Dodge Fuzzy Get Dizzy from Mario Party Star Rush. In this minigame, it's probably going to be just the same, where you got to make it to the top, and either it's going to be you mash the button, you hold the button, or you use your sticks to go up, and then when you stop doing it, you'll slowly descend. It'll probably be one of those things, so we'll see when we get it. Up next, it looks like 1v1 Sphere Factor? Sphere Factor back in Mario Party 7, you had 2 teams of 2 pushing a ball through an obstacle course. But here, I'm gonna guess is now similar to Sphere Factor, but it's a 1v1 where you're pushing the ball by yourself through a course. Up next, we have that slapping minigame that they showed off in the Japanese website, where you gotta either trick your opponent to not jump when you ground pound, or trick your opponent to ground pound while you're jumping. A lot of mind games. You're probably gonna hear a lot of yelling with this one. But the minigame that I am most excited for, if it is what I think it is, would be Mosh Pit Mayhem. I am hoping that it is similar, at least, to Mosh Pit Playroom. I love Mosh Pit Playroom. Please give it to me. But of course, if it isn't Mosh Pit Playroom, then whatever. Next, we have 5 minigames, which I believe are item minigames, if you really take a look at them. The first minigame just looks like everything is more or less interconnected with each other, and then you just gotta pick a random line and pray that you get the right item. The next one is one of 2 things. Either A, you have a ball and you need to move it to the correct item, or if I'm really looking closer at it, it looks like it could be an arrow with a wheel in the center, and it's going to be spinning around, and then you either have to time it to get the specific item that you want, or you hit it and then it'll go a specific amount of times around and then stop on an item. The next minigame is you just drop a ball and I guess hope that it goes in whatever basket that you want it to go in for your item? Question mark? The next one, you'd probably just have to match 2 cards to get whatever item. They'll probably have 5 different items, 2 cards of each. You're gonna flip them over. Whichever one you flip over twice is the one that you get. And finally, the one that I think is probably the most intriguing looks like some sort of ice shuffleboard type of minigame. My guess is that you're gonna hold a button. However long that you hold it will be the strength, and then it's gonna push it out. Maybe there's a backboard. Maybe there's not. Maybe you just have to hold it a specific amount of time, and then if it lands in it, great, you get that item. But either A, there will be no backboard, and if you shoot too far, then you don't get any items, or B, there will be a backboard, and you can maybe potentially bounce it off of the backboard into one of the items. Now, let's talk about the minigames that I think are the most intriguing when it comes to this game. There are minigames which look to be ally-specific minigames. Now, of course, we don't know how the allies are going to work in this game. We have a somewhat idea. We don't know if they're permanent. We don't know if you're only going to be able to get one of them. And we don't know what potential abilities that each of them may have. But of course, it does look like these minigames are specifically tied to specific characters. I'm going to say this before we get into any of them. I hope that there is a way where some, if not most of these minigames, can still make their way onto the normal roulette. If not, cool, whatever. But I feel like instead of having the, I believe, 29 normal minigames, 22 without motion, if the ones that I believe are motion, instead of having the 22 to 29, if you have 32 to 37 to potentially 45, that makes it a lot less likely to have repeats. So that is my hope. A lot of these look really fun. Hopefully they're in the normal roulette. Anyway, now let's actually get into them. These first 2 minigames here, I don't necessarily know what they are, so that's why they're here. I still have hope for them, but of course, we don't know exactly what they are. But the first one looks like some sort of thing where Peach is asking you to get donuts. I don't know if it's just she shows you donuts and you gotta get them in an order, or if she gives you like context clues about what donuts she wants and you gotta go get them. It's something along those lines, but of course, I don't really know. The next one that I don't really know is it looks like you're in some sort of like ruins area for Wario. We do see 4 things in the middle that look like your play buttons, but they look like hollowed out play buttons. So maybe, and this is just me trying to think out of my butt, you need to walk around an area and then take these 4 buttons or stones or whatever, grab one, bring it back here, put it in, and then go find the other 3, and then rinse and repeat. First one to do all 4 of them will get Wario. The next one looks like it's for Daisy, and in this one, it looks like there are small little daisies on some of these platforms. So either you need to collect the daisies and then bring them back to Daisy. This feels weird saying it out loud. Or you need to collect a specific amount of them to get Daisy. That's my guess, one of those 2 things. Up next, we have Luigi's. This looks like it has 4 different easels, and then you need to take the pictures from the easels and put together a puzzle on the wall to be able to escape the room. Either this is going to be a 1-room thing, or maybe it'll be 3 to 5 rooms. Fastest to do all the rooms will escape and get Luigi. The next one we have is for Bowser Jr., it looks like, and it looks like it's going to be a 10-round gauntlet of things that Bowser Jr. puts you through. A couple of things that they showed were amps roaming around, electrocuting everything, you gotta stay out of the way. And then the first one looks like it's just gonna be you have to get the chicken. Probably whoever has the most amount of points by the end will get Bowser Jr. Next we got Waluigi's. I initially thought this was a coin minigame, but Now my guess, because I think that it is an ally-specific minigame, is that it's going to be whoever gets the most points in pinball in probably whatever amount of time, or you have to reach a specific amount of points, will win Waluigi. Next, we have Mario's Medley, or whatever it's going to be called, where you have Leaf Leap, Bumper Balls, and Shy Guy Says. Either A, you're going to have to do all 3 of these games, and then whoever does the best will get Mario. Or I think it could be a random mini game of these 3 will be chosen, and then that person will get Mario, depending on whoever wins it. Maybe if there's like a draw in, say, Bumper Balls, if it does be like the first one to show up, then it'll go to either Leaf Leap or Shy Guy Says. And you go until somebody actually is a true winner. Next up, we have some sort of snowboarding minigame for Rosalina. I've seen comparisons of this minigame to Alpine Assault, but instead everybody's like on their own little corner course. It's a lot more direct of seeing where you're going instead of being an overview. But I mean, my guess when it comes to this being a Rosalina game is maybe it's referencing Rosalina's course from Mario Kart 7, where she does have an ice course, a snow course in Mario Kart. But yeah, probably beat Rosa, beat everybody else to get her. Next, we just got Donkey Konga. That's it. Just be the best at playing Donkey Konga with your L and R buttons, and whoever does the best gets Donkey Kong. And the one that I'm most excited for is the one where you're gonna be riding a Yoshi. Obviously, it's probably to get Yoshi. It looks like it's going to be a rather long obstacle course where you gotta hop over things. Maybe there will be a couple holes that you gotta make sure that you don't fall into. But this was the one minigame that I was most excited for looking at the initial trailer. And this and a few of these other minigames are like the reasons why I really hope that some of these ally potentially specific minigames can be seen on the roulette. Please let it happen. If not, I'll be okay with it. But man, this would potentially take the game up like a point for me or something along those lines. Now here, we're going to talk about the 5 minigames that are not available. These could either be 5 minigames that are for 5 more of your characters, and then it'll be more ally-specific minigames, or it's for something specific that hasn't been shown off yet, like Toad's Factory, or maybe there's minigames in that flying adventure type mode that they showed off initially as well. It could be 5 minigames from one of those 2 modes, or it'll be 5 more ally specific minigames. That's my guess. Now we're going to be moving on to the 8-player minigames, which look like they're in that giant Bowser mode. Now of these minigames, this one I got nothing. I literally got nothing. I don't know what it is. I cannot tell you anything about it. It just looks like there's something on the left side where some people are doing something, and then there's something on the right side where people are doing something. But it looks like on the right side, there's some sort of like construction line where you got to do things. I got nothing. And the one that I'm least excited for here is that 8-player picture solving puzzle minigame. For me, it's hard enough to solve puzzles with 2 or 3 other people. Trying to solve a puzzle with 7 other people sounds like it could be hell. But who knows? Maybe I'll be wrong, and maybe this be like one of my top 3 in this mode. The next one looks like you're bringing characters to the top, or you're directing characters to the place they need to go, or something along those lines. If it is that, then either you need to get a specific amount as fast as you can, or you need to do as many as you can in a time limit. The next one we have is, again, one that was in the initial trailer, and it's Walking with Wiggler. This will go one of 2 ways. Either you need to keep the time with Wiggler, or it's going to be basically 8-player Desert Dash, where you all need to work together to beat Wiggler. Either way, trying to time something with 8 people could either go well, or it will be hell. The next one we saw in the Pauline trailer, And that is, you just got to press the symbol that is underneath you. I'm assuming if everybody gets the symbol correct when they press it and time it, then you'll get some bonus points. Probably just get as many points as you can. The next minigame is basically just look away, but instead you're going to probably be looking towards the direction of the arrow. My guess is if everybody looks the correct way, you'll get a bonus. And then you probably either have to do it in the specific amount of times, or it's just however many that you can get over a period of time. You know, saying that out loud, the sound of the same. Anyway, the next minigame looks like a volleyball minigame where you gotta bounce the volleyballs from one person to another. My guess is that you're gonna have to press A when it does get to you. Otherwise, it'll just bounce on your head and disappear. And however many you get over a period of time will be your score. Next, we have a minigame where you're working together to make apple juice. 3 people are getting the apples. The 2 people in the middle are making the apple juice. And the 3 people on the end are delivering the apple juice to the truck. Probably either fill as many trucks as you can in a time limit, or just fill up the truck as fast as you can. And the final 8-player minigame, the one that I'm most excited for, is the minigame where you're shooting targets on a ship. Everybody has 3 shots, and you gotta work together to get as many of the targets as you can, because if you both shoot the same target, that's only gonna count for 1. From what it looks like, the green targets are worth 1 point, the yellow targets are worth 2, and maybe if there's red or a different color, then those will be 3 points. Probably get as many points as you can throughout the amount of ships that they give you. Next up, we got the Koopathlon Minigames. And we're going to start out with the one that I literally have not a clue, because either A, it is for Koopathlon and maybe you're like defeating enemies to get coins, or it is still part of the 8-player minigames and you're working together. It is one of the 2. I don't know which of the 2 modes it goes to, so I figured I'd put it right basically in between both of them. However, the first minigame truly when it comes to Koopathlon that I do know is in Koopathlon is you gotta guide characters to a door with their silhouette above it. Maybe like the character on the right will give you more coins, but they're more scarce, or I don't know. The next minigame looks like you're gonna be pushing off the coins, boxes, and maybe some like character plushies to get coins. So you gotta push them off the platform and they'll roll in, you gotta time it, and then it'll just keep going until it changes to the next minigame. The next one is interesting. I could be wrong. I could be totally wrong. But it looks like one player piece out from Mario Party 5. It totally looks to me like on the left side you have a conveyor belt with different pieces. You gotta grab the piece, bring it into your grid, and then say you accidentally grab a wrong piece, you have that gray thing on the right side as your trash. I could be totally wrong, but it just looks like that to me. And then probably for every single thing that you do, you get coins, and then if you fill up your board, then you get a bunch of coins. The next minigame, you're gonna be bopping Monty Moles for coins. You got normal Monty Moles where if you hit them once, you get a coin. You got gold ones where if you hit them enough times, it look like you get 5 coins. And then my guess is that if you do hit a bomb, you'll probably be stunned for 3 to 5 seconds. Next, we have a minigame where you're gonna be shooting yourself from cannons to collect some coins. My guess is literally just that. You're just gonna be shooting from cannon to cannon, collecting as many coins as you can. Maybe there's some gaps where if you do fall in, then you have to wait a couple seconds to be able to shoot yourself from the cannons again, but I think that one's pretty simple. Next up, we have the minigame where it looks like you're cooking pastries, you're cooking bread, you're cooking cookies, stuff like that. You got to make sure that you pull out the cookies, the bread, the pastries at the right time to be able to get the coins, and it looks like certain ones are worth more than others. So you got to keep track of the ones that are worth more value. The next minigame looks something along the lines of Brick Breaker. If you don't know what that is, you have a ball, it'll go up, and then you gotta keep track with your platform to keep bouncing the ball back towards the other bricks. My guess is that you gotta get through the first layer, and then after you get through the first layer, however many bricks or blocks that you break of the Mario will be the amount of coins that you get, and maybe some of them are worth more coins than others. The next one, I thought I had found a secret minigame that wasn't shown before. However, it does look like it is part of Koopathlon. I thought it might have been Spike's specific ally minigame, but no, alas, it is part of Koopathlon. In this minigame, it looks like you're going to be running up a hill collecting coins, while Spike is going to be throwing some spiked rollers that will probably either knock you down further or stun you. If you do happen to get hit by them, just collect as many coins as you can. But the final Koopathlon minigame, the one that I'm most excited for, looks like it's either like F-Zero from Nintendo Land, where you gotta run around collecting the coins, or if you really want to be more accurate in probably how it's going to control, probably think of like Sonic on Rails, or those specific Sonic segments where you can only press L1 or R1 to move left and right. But here you're just collecting coins. Maybe there's some platforms that you got to avoid, but here you're just mainly collecting coins. Next, we have the minigames that are still from Koopathlon, I believe, but are the Bowser ones that can knock you backwards. The first one, I have no clue. Not one. It looks like maybe 3 wheels, and you just, I don't know, got to get the highest score of the 3 wheels, and it's just completely random. I don't know. The next minigame is you're running away from Bowser himself, and you probably just gotta either, you know, stay on the platforms. Maybe some of them will drop underneath you. Maybe some fireballs will come from above you and knock you off. But, you know, just keep running away from Bowser. Don't fall down. Don't potentially get hit. Next one, you're standing on some squares, and you gotta make sure that you're standing on the white ones, because the ones that do change the color will fall out from underneath you. So make sure that you're not being stupid, and make sure you're standing on the right ones. The next one looks like one of those mini games that came from Super, where you had you and your allies all on like the same team, and you had to work together to jump over the rolls that would roll over time. So it's probably something similar to that, where you just got to make sure that you don't get hit by the grolls or maybe bullet bills, and just stay alive. And the one that I'm most excited about looks like one that is kind of similar in a way to like New Super Mario Bros. Wii, that final section. But here, from what I can see, because I can't really fully tell, it looks like everybody might be in like tiny clown cars, and you have to make your way through little holes that are in each of the pillars, and then just not die. But yeah, something that I've been thinking about, and I could be wrong, but if I'm right, it makes it a hell of a lot more interesting with these minigames. These minigames could totally be where these are only in this mode, but what if these minigames are maybe involved in the other Bowser mode, like maybe like at the end, or what if these minigames can also be played on Bowser's board? If you notice the Bowser board, Bowser makes some of the Bowser spaces potentially like worse versions. What if, and just hear me out, on that board, if you land on the quote-unquote worse version of these Bowser spaces, you play one of these mini games, and if you lose like a star or something along those lines, and that's the way to like lose a star with Bowser. Or maybe it's even worse. Maybe you lose a star and half your coins, or he just takes everything. That would be a real dick move, but I would love it. But yeah, obviously they're for Koopathlon, but there is just the slightest chance that they could be part of the other things where you do see the giant Bowser. And our final category of mini games. I didn't think this video was gonna take this long, but hey, we're here. We have the rhythm mini games. The first 2 or 3, I don't have anything. I legitimately cannot fully tell what is going on with these 3. You have one minigame, which I literally have nothing. It looks like maybe it has something to do with popcorn, but that is blowing gas out my ass. The next one looks something to do with bread. Maybe you're constructing a sandwich, or you're cutting bread, or something along those lines. I don't know. And then the third one looks like maybe you're wrapping up a hot dog, or you're wrapping up hot dogs, or you're doing something to a hot dog, or I believe that's a hot dog at least. Maybe I'm totally wrong. Maybe it's a hoagie from Subway. But you're doing something to something. Maybe I have it mixed up. The one that I think is a sandwich or a hoagie is the hot dog, and the one that I think is a hot dog is a sandwich or hoagie. But anyway, on to the ones that I feel like I do know. One looks like you're just making a hamburger. You're timing it in the way to make a hamburger. The next one, you're going to be cutting fruits and vegetables, probably in the time, in the rhythm. Now, the next two, and one that we'll talk about a little later, look like they come from Super. The first one is the food fencing mini game, where like you're on a ship and it would shoot cannons of food that you have to like skewer in time. It looks like that one is returning. It also looks like the one from Super where you're hitting the Monty Mole in time is also coming back. However, if you look at it, I know it's not, but it kind of does look like Tuber Tug from Mario Party 9. So I'm just gonna throw this out on a limb, and maybe it is something similar to Tuber Tug from Mario Party 9, but at first you're doing a rhythm, and then at the end, you're doing as fast as you can. Just gonna throw it out there. I'm probably wrong, but might as well, if it is in the Monty Mole minigame. The next minigame looks like you're gonna take a golf club and you're gonna swing and hit fruits into a giant gelato cup. Next, it's on the cover of the game. It's on the box art. Flipping pancakes. You're probably flipping pancakes to a rhythm, and make sure they don't burn. But of course, the creme de la creme, the best rhythm minigame, the Waluigi dancing minigame is back. You gotta copy the Waluigi. Yes. So yeah, I mean, obviously when it comes to the rhythm minigames, it's whichever one has like the best music will be the one that I like the most. But of course, there are some that are aesthetically looking better than others. Anyway, that has been this video. I wasn't expecting this video to take as long, kind of just quickly talking about each of the minigames. But of course, here we are. If you have any ideas that maybe differ from the ideas that I have for each of the minigames, feel free to leave them down in the comments below and tell me, which minigames are you most looking forward to? But either way, thank you for watching, and I will see you guys next time.